Hello, salam, shalom, namaste, sat sri akal, aloha, hola, ciao, bonjour, bona, and privyet. It's really, really good to be with you again. And I'm very happy that you're joining us today because we have a very awesome guest, and it's Farah Asif, who's a personal branding expert. And I'm so excited about what we'll be learning with you today. Farah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Samia. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you.
And Farah, I'll ask you to jump right in by telling us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Okay. So I'm Farah Asif, and I work with entrepreneurs, with coaches and healers to help them to build their online presence and to get their real authentic selves out there online, because there's a lot of like preconceived notion about how you have to show up online, and people have gotten very, very insecure. There's a lot of comparison paralysis. There's a lot of fear of visibility, frankly, fear of judgment, fear of, there's just a lot of trauma as well. So I help coaches and healers overcome their blocks as well and show up in a really authentic way that feels good to them. And it's been such a pleasure doing this.
I love it. And you're doing such important work because when we're talking about coaches and healers, I mean, you being a personal branding expert, you know how critical it is for us to develop a personal brand because, I mean, we are in a profession where our personal brand, I mean, that's the face of
Yeah.
our business, right? Like we are the face of our business. We are the voice of our business. So tell me more about what is like for you a key component or a key strategy or aspect of building out the personal brand.
So key component, that's a really good question, Samia, because there's a lot of things I could tell you, but let me just hone in on like where would be a starting point would be, first of all, you need to choose the platform that you feel really good posting on. I think that's the number one thing that a lot of people end up posting on multiple platforms when they start, and there's so much overwhelm, and you just need to see what I like to tell my clients is like, which platform do you like to spend the most time on? That's where you actually want to be posting because you also enjoy the experience. And social media can be such a time suck. And as entrepreneurs, we have like a million things, and also we have lives. Hello, like we're also moms. We have our social life and everything like that, and we have families. And so you want to be really mindful of not letting social media take over your life, even as like you're building your business. So choose your platform. That would be the first place I would start. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And
Thank
I
you.
think that was probably one of the most important advices that I got from my coach when I started working.
That's
Because
great.
I
That's good
was
advice.
like going to drive myself crazy trying to,
Exactly.
my gosh, because but this, I just want our listeners to know that this is not advice to be taken for granted in the sense that there are other people, other experts who will tell you, no, you have to have at least the big four. That was another bit of advice that I had received. They were like, at that time, the big four were Twitter, Facebook,
Oh my
YouTube, and
gosh.
Google.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, no.
yeah, and so we're like, you have to have at least these top four profiles, and you need to manage them and you need to post on them because if you don't exist on all of these platforms, it's like you don't exist. And that was the first advice I heard. So I tried to follow it, got me really overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And thank God. I
Yes, I
got
mean,
a different bit of advice that worked out as well.
you found the way out. But yeah, no, I think a lot of people have heard, and the thing is, there's a lot of, it's I call it bro marketing, which is something I like. I work with a lot of female entrepreneurs as well, and our female energy. Um, I don't. I a lot of my clients are also empaths, and they're quite intuitive, and they're sensitive to energy. And so you have to really put your energy, how do you say it? What is the word for that? Like when you're conscious
Mm,
of where you put your energy. And if you're like spreading yourself so thin and like trying to build up an online presence all at once,
yeah,
and also you're learning how, right? Like you're learning what type of content goes on Twitter, where
yeah.
Google, and then it's way, 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 way too much.
That,
So
that's right. I think what I realized was that the first advice that I got about you have to post everywhere was really
mm,
not that it's like bad advice in itself, but it's you have to recognize in what context it is good. And you just beautifully contextualized for me that, if you're just starting out, for example, if you are like still a small um, operation in terms of if it's just you or you have a very small team, this advice of post everywhere and post every day everywhere, that kind of thing is really geared more towards like bigger companies who have entire teams dedicated just to the marketing aspect of their
oh,
businesses, and so they have the time and capacity to do that. But if we are solopreneurs, then we
mhm.
don't have that capacity. So, okay, so that brings me to my next question, and that is, when we think about what we can do really well as coaches,
Yes.
healers, I know one of the things that you are really amazing at, Farah, and that I really have appreciated as I've been following you on social media and so forth, is sharing your story. Can
Mm,
you tell me more about how that, yeah, what that's about for you and how you use
yes.
that?
Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode. Hope you're getting value out of it. For your information, this episode has been sponsored by the Happiness 101 program. Are you a change maker, coach, trainer, or healer? Are chains of fear holding you back from making the impact and income you desire? Using a unique combination of positive psychology and the spiritual wisdom of our most effective change makers, the Happiness 101 program helps you break through your limiting beliefs and manifest the abundance and success you desire with fun and ease. Interested? Book a free Happiness 101 exploration call with me, your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Just use my online calendar link in the show notes. Now, back to the show.
Absolutely. So I work a lot with storytelling, and the power of stories is because as coaches and as personal brands, we represent our experience, and generally we take from our experience to coach. We are experts of our experience. Let's just call it that, right? And
Yeah.
from that, we have become coaches in whichever field we are in. And the thing about storytelling is that it's a way to connect directly with someone, because even if someone has not lived the same thing,
Mhm.
people have similar experiences, and through stories, we can actually connect much deeper with a human being because there's more vulnerability there. There's more humanness. There is, there's just simply more connection. And um, people are, frankly, we're obsessed with stories. That's why we love series. That's why we love movies. That's why we love books, right? And because all of these are just stories. And so why would it be different at all for personal brands and for social media? I mean, why do you follow someone? Like, think about someone you really, really love on social media. I bet you that you know a little bit more about them than just what they do on a surface level. They have let you in to their life, their experience. And that's why you start to like them, trust them, because you have a sense of a rapport.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. In fact, you just made me think about, I watch a lot of these late night shows like
Mm-hmm.
Trevor Noah and Stephen Colbert, etc. Uh,
Right?
they're U.S. Shows, and they were doing a sketch on how there are all these. Oh no, wait! I think it was John Oliver who was doing a sketch on how these big corporations
Mhm.
on social media they try
Yeah.
so hard to build some kind of a personality for
Oh, yeah.
themselves, and like they, because it's like just a corporate brand is not going
Yeah.
to inspire anyone to want to work with them or consume their products or
Exactly.
services.
That's such an advantage. It's such an advantage we naturally have as
Yes.
people who are selling, who are also selling our business. Like, we have that natural advantage that we can inspire, we can connect, yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah.
I
So
love that.
when we think about sharing our stories, what's like a challenge that people can face in that context?
Okay, so a lot of people come to me with the question of how much they should share,
Mm.
what they should be sharing, how to connect that to what they do, right? Like, because of course your businesses, so you don't want to be just like rattling on about something that is not related at all. So
Yeah.
I totally can respect that. And also people are wondering how much they should share. Like, what are the boundaries around what's appropriate to share and what they shouldn't. And so let me just break this down. So how much should you share, first of all? That is really, really dependent on you, to be honest.
Mm.
Like, there is a gauge. Each person has their individual boundaries. For example, if you're someone who your personal brand is also that you're a mom and you don't feel comfortable sharing your kids, that's totally fine. Like, you don't need to be a mompreneur coach or work with moms and show your children if you don't want to. But you can speak about them. You can share your experiences as a mom, and you can share like your stories without like involving your family. And then some mompreneurs, they love bringing their family in, So it really depends on the coach. And so that's how I really like to take my clients through this, um, it's like this exercise where we gauge like what's uncomfortable, what is leaning into the edge, and then what's like out of the boundary,
Right.
out of the comfort zone. And it's always good to know what your edges are.
Right.
So yes. So if you're trying to, share more of your life, I would like just write out a piece of content, lean into the edge. If it feels like way too edgy right now, don't share it, because there's always respect of trauma, of boundaries. We as people, And coaches, we go through so much to get to where we are, some of us, I mean. And so, yeah, that's my big advice is like respect your boundaries. You can lean into edges, but that's how I would gauge like what to share. And
Right.
then how do you merge your stories with your business? It's a big one because this is like, it comes through also practice and experience. And as you are, well, one thing is coming to mind to share with you is your clients want to know what is it that you live through that makes you an expert. So if you can identify those parts in your story that you can take from that experience to show them that, okay, like I get you.
Yeah.
I have been through these certain situations, which is why I really, really understand what you're going through and I can help you get through it.
Yeah.
And another, I'm sorry, I'm like going on a
Like
tangent.
wonderful. Thank you. It's very helpful.
Of course. Of course. One more thing that's come up is even in present day, you can still share, like coaches have this idea that if you're a coach, say you're a happiness coach, right, Samia?
That's
So
right.
if you have a day where you're a human being, maybe you're grappling difficult emotions on that day, like we're not always on a high or on a like a perfect emotion all the time. And so you can actually share what it is that you're doing to move through that emotion. And it doesn't take away from the fact that you're a happiness coach. In fact, it enriches the fact that you know how to move through this problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. And actually, what you were also saying earlier about the edges, just to combine those two bits of advice, like in my experience, sometimes what I've found is whatever I'm going through, sometimes I'm able to share it in the moment and be like, okay, this is what I'm going through, this is how I'm dealing with it, and we're good. And other times I really first need to get through it and get to a certain place of, okay, I've processed it, I'm feeling good again. And then I can share and be like, hey, this is what I went through.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be like,
yes.
it doesn't have to be like when you're in the trauma and you're like coming apart and you're sharing, because if that doesn't feel authentic to you, don't do it. Right. It's totally about, again, it goes back to the boundary thing, like respect your boundaries, because that's the way social media will feel good.
Yeah.
Because everything has to be in balance and it has to be respectful of each individual.
Yeah. That's right. That's such an important point. I mean, my gosh, you made me think about so much in terms of it can be such a learning curve, as you were mentioning also, when it comes to sharing your story.
Yes.
I know, like for me, when someone would ask me, why are you into this work? And I got that question a lot because when I told people I'm a happiness expert, a lot of people were like, we've never even heard of such a thing. Let's more. And why did you get into it? So, for a long time, I mean, I knew why I got into it, but I wasn't confident about like how much to share, exactly what you were saying, because the real reason I got into it is because I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse. And so for decades, I was suffering with my own happiness. And when I learned to take control of my happiness and, learn to feel good and, figure out that, oh my gosh, this is something that I can be in control of, that we can learn to be in control of. I wanted to share that with everyone. But
Yes.
yeah, the one challenge in sharing that with everyone was that I had not told um, my family about what had happened with me. And
Oh,
so for a while, I was like skirting around, and anytime I spoke publicly, I was like, okay,
mhm.
what can I share? What can I not share? Making up stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
like not like false stuff, but just, bringing out other aspects of this is what has brought me to this point. Um,
Yes.
but then, eventually I got to a point where I was able to be honest with my family. And
Yes.
once that happened, then I felt, okay, now I can be publicly open as well. And so like for me, that was just like one of the,
It's the journey.
yeah, yeah.
Totally the journey. And as a personal brand, your brand goes through also the journey as you develop, as you feel more comfortable sharing. And I can share from my experience as well. I had a similar experience in when I was first getting online. I had to gauge because I had a difficult past as well. I started online after a divorce, after a really bad, traumatizing marriage, in fact, and also I'm also had a really not interesting childhood. I say interesting to make it lighter, but it was full of abuse. It was full of like verbal, emotional, even sexual abuse, and so my past is riddled with trauma. And so for me to like put myself online was really jarring. And I was like, okay, what am I going to share? Like, what can I share? What do I feel good sharing? And also to be respectful of, I wanted to be respectful of the people involved, And as you go on your journey, as you start to build your brand, as you start to bring a community around you that is like very, very respectful, very, very nurturing. They're your people. They start to become your tribe. You start to feel more comfortable opening up to them because it's like your friends in a way. And like, yeah, it was like that for me. It was such a beautiful thing. And so I, I actually, my main purpose to becoming a personal brand coach is to allow people to experience the power of community. So
Mm,
I really, really like when I had no one, I had an online community,
yeah.
and that was so beautiful for me.
Mm,
Mhm.
yes. Oh my gosh. I must say, one of my favorite parts of being a coach and a healer
Oh,
also is just, the community of people around
absolutely.
me. And and it really is so mutually beneficial because
Yeah.
it's not just me, the expert, who's always
Yeah.
helping
Yeah.
them or preaching at them or something like that, but really with every person who gives me the privilege and the joy of working with them, I'm learning
Mhm.
something. And also, just like you said, that sense of support that
Mhm.
you have, it's not just for the community members, it's there for me too. It's beautiful.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I feel you on that. Yeah. And I feel the same. Like every person that I have, it's such a privilege and honor
Mm,
to work with people, like to work with clients who, because coaching is about a relationship. And maybe like we're getting a little off track here. Let me know and we can come back. But I feel like coaching is very much about a relationship, and so is, building a community. You're building relationships essentially online, on your social media. So coming coming out as your true self and your authentic self is so important in that regard. Not just someone who, like you said, shows up as just an expert, because that's very like, it's great, right? Like you need information online, but there's also Google.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what Google is for, to be fair. So if we can just add a little more dimension to our social media and like really make it more about, you know, connection and community, I
Yeah.
think social media can be a much nicer place. And I feel like it's meant to be more for connection than anything else. That's
Yeah.
why social is in there.
Right.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
Yeah.
thinking about connection and stories, and just I was thinking about, as you were sharing, I was thinking about the healing power of stories, because I know that one thing I've experienced, both before I started sharing my own story and after I started sharing my own story, is that when one person shares their story, especially the struggles part of it, it gives so many other people a sense of, oh, I'm not alone. And I too have the permission to be open and honest about the struggles that I'm going through. I know one of the things as a survivor of sexual abuse was that was most difficult was that for a long time, at that time I was growing up, in India and Pakistan, and I heard zero conversation or dialogue, didn't even see anything on TV. I was in some ways, I was living a very protected life, and I heard zero conversation about the fact that
Right.
child abuse, uh, especially like sexual abuse, exists. And so I thought I was the only one. And
Right.
oh my gosh, and it wasn't until pretty much after I came to America and I started to get exposed to survivors sharing their stories in different mediums, like on college. I mean, for me, the big um, change happened when I was on my college campus, and suddenly started learning about all these different things, including, there's actually clubs on campus, at least thank God there was club on my campus called the Clothesline Project, and that's what they focus on, is to create a safe space for survivors and allies, friends and families to come together and share their stories and use that as a way to educate about the trauma of abuse and so forth. And
Yes.
just hearing from other survivors, I was like, whoa, I'm not alone. And
Yeah.
oh, it was just
That
like
is so
first huge
reassuring.
step. Yeah, yeah,
And healing, like you said. And absolutely, I second everything you said.
yeah.
Like it's been so liberating as well, might I say, to actually, like, when you're comfortable, of course, because boundaries, right? And if it doesn't feel bad to you to share that and you feel safe, it is very, very liberating, as well as someone else who can actually relate to you. Like, you have no idea, since like, in fact, every time I open up just a little more, there's more people that come in to my network that who, have seen somewhere I shared, and they're like, I really relate to your story, and that is so powerful, and thank you for sharing. And, you can just be a source of inspiration for someone, which is amazing. And the fact is that it's both a give and take.
Right.
Yes, it's equally really fulfilling and liberating, and also to hear that you helped someone
Right.
maybe, and they were inspired by your story. That's also amazing.
Yeah. And if it can help them open up to you as a coach or healer about
Yes,
things that will allow you to help them more and better, my
and
gosh,
that's yes,
that's so important as well.
that is so important. And I agree. That's like the big benefit in opening up and sharing your story and leaning into those edges, like I said, because it's not always easy, but it's so like, yeah, we're meant to, like, as coaches, we're here to help. So
Yeah. So for people
it helps us.
who want to learn how to tell their story more, better, and get more comfortable in this practice, how can you help them?
Okay, so you can also find me on Instagram. I don't know if you have a way of sharing my
Yes,
my
we will drop
handles.
any links that you want people to know about to get in touch
Amazing.
with you. We will drop those in the show notes.
Amazing. So there is a way of working with me. I do take on clients. I work with them one-to-one. Um, and yeah, there's different levels of working with me. So just feel free to send me a message, even if you just have a question, about social media, image, online, personal branding. I'd be so happy to just share any tips and value I have, even if you're not looking to work with someone yet, or you're not there.
Awesome. And I
Yeah.
want to just encourage all of our listeners to please make sure you check our show notes, check out Farah's links, because I'll tell you one of the reasons I invited Farah to be a guest on our podcast was when I found her page. I found you first on Facebook. I immediately was so impressed by
Oh,
the clarity of your, without even having to spend a lot of time on your page. I immediately knew what you were about, how you helped people, and so you had such a, like, I was like, here's a lady who's teaching about personal branding and she knows how
mhm.
to do it right.
Oh, thank you. That is
So,
nice to hear. Thank you so much, Samia. Yeah,
so
I'm really glad we connected and you found me.
yeah.
And it's been really, really great speaking to you. And yeah, we've connected like a few times, so really glad. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
having me. And if we talked as well about a part two.
Yeah.
We will let you and your viewers decide if you want a part two. I'll be happy to come back and share more.
Awesome. We would be happy to have you come back. And so until then, I just wish you lots and lots of peace and joy.
Thank you so much. Same to you.